The property has stayed empty since 2005. No property tax on anything other than dirt. No school tax on anything other than dirt. Nobody there.
True.
Nobody there to shop in the shops, eat in the restaurants, create more quality of life, more interesting people moving to your city. None of that's happened. Yeah, there's no more traffic there, but guess what? That's the only positive that I can tell you happened, that there's no more traffic.
Yeah.
Okay, but eventually something has to be built there, and it needs to be of high quality.
How many times did you sit back just relaxing? Understand movements coming in, yeah, we got the packs in. I don't really want.
Welcome to Kathy and Susie's Kids. I'm Jordan. Matt's not here, but I'm with a new Matt McDonald. So let's start with your title. Who are you, real quick?
Well, my real title is at the Coliseum, but today I'm here to talk about a major project that has been short-stopped for way too long in the city of Ocean Springs. I was an alderman there for 24 years representing that part of the city, and it's really a crying shame to what's happened to the developers, not once but twice, trying to develop a little bit over 6 acres looking over Biloxi Bay. And, you know, I hate what's happened to them. I'd love to see them be successful, and anything that I can do to help them, I'd like to see it work.
Dude's dope. All right, and we're here right now with Mike Butler from Butler Homes.
That's right.
Developer of the Sands.
I'm a developer of the Sands. It's a tough act to follow with old Matt McDonald over here, but he's definitely a good friend to have. So Matt and I have formed a friendship over the years. I got a company, Butler Homes. We build high-end custom homes. I love what I do. It's an art form for me, man. It's fun. I get to work with two of my best friends and my wife, my best friend Josh Workman from when we were kids.
Josh is dope.
We've known
and
each other,
wife's
man.
Awesome.
Yeah, we've known each other since we were. I don't even remember meeting him. That's how long I've known him. And Matt Swank, I remember meeting Matt in the 5th grade. You're pretty good at remembering when you meet people. Yeah. So when I met Matt, we were sitting in the hallway in 5th grade, and then of course I obviously remember meeting my wife in New Orleans. So on a Thursday afternoon at about 2:00. So let me clear that up. But anyways, I get to work with all my best friends, man. I get to work, and now we got some other guys coming in. I got my buddy Joseph Capuano, I've known since kindergarten.
Just people you care about.
Just people I care about, dude. My business is, I love what I do. It's, we do pretty well. We build some beautiful homes. We care about everybody, man. And at the end of the day, all we want to do is put something out there that people appreciate. And we're there for the long term. We're there for the long term. So we don't just build a house. We stay with you for forever.
Matt, so you were Ocean Springs Ward. Was that correct?
Ward 2 Alderman. Ward 2 Alderman from 1993 to 2017.
That's insane.
It was insane. My wife thought so too. And to save my marriage and save my sanity, I retired undefeated in June of 2017. And you know what? I've never looked back, never been ashamed. I was proud of a lot of the things that I was able to do in probably the coolest and most well-recognized part of the city of Ocean Springs. I'm talking about the harbor, the beach, the downtown area, the historic district, the area where the bridge, the area where all the churches were. The bridge is another story, but the area where all the churches are, Lovers Lane, Cleveland Avenue, Washington Avenue, Government Street, where all the retail district is downtown. That was all area that I represented for 24 years consecutively, man.
And that's the reason I said it's 24 years. I think the longest running politician probably down here on the coast right now is Rusty Quave at D'Iberville Mayor.
No. Actually, I'm going to give credit where credit's due. There's an alderman that's retiring this year in the city of Ocean Springs, John Gill.
Oh,
John Gill.
What?
John Gill served 32 consecutive years. He's the longest standing alderman in the entire state of Mississippi.
That's impressive, man.
Longest standing in the entire state.
He said, when did you start? 1992?
93.
93. I was 12 years old, Jordan.
86. So I was 6.
Okay. Just to clear things up. He said a lot of stuff, but that's all I heard.
And you know what, though? The reason I ran, when I moved to Ocean Springs, I had no intention of ever getting in politics. It was the furthest thing from my mind. But I'd gotten appointed when they built the Civic Center out in the east end of town to serve on their board of directors to help them form policy. And a pricing structure and get the building outfitted. And that had to do with my history and experience in the entertainment and venue industry, by working at the Coliseum and other venues along the way before I got to Mississippi. And doing that, I learned about how archaic and sometimes mean-spirited local politics was. And I said, you know what, I want to get involved because I think I can do this better.
Cheers, bro.
Yeah, man. I think I can do.
That's a right reason to run.
I think I can do this better. And I called a guy that was serving, a guy by the name of Steve Robinson. He was the alderman at large. And I called him. I said, you don't know me, but help's coming. Just sit tight. Yeah. Help is coming. I said, I've watched what they've done to you when you were planning the city's 100th birthday party. And you had it all planned, and at the 11th hour, they pulled a rug out, and they had a hot dog and hamburger cookout out at some venue that really didn't matter, and it was like, wow, you took this major event that y'all were planning to celebrate 100 years, and now it's gone, and they're doing hot dogs and hamburgers and Coca-Cola. That isn't gonna work, man. I said that ain't gonna work. I said help's coming, and sure enough, I was fortunate enough to win my first term in '93, and I served all the way till 2017, 6 terms. I never got beat. I retired undefeated.
That's dope.
I think he left one term too early. I love Ricky, but I think I would have liked to keep him for one more term, maybe 2.
I mean, my time, look, I did all I was supposed to do.
Yeah,
man.
and so how did the Sands start?
Oh, man, that's a good question. So, we started the thing. I got a phone call, man. I was living in Ocean Springs on Bell Fountain Beach, and I got a phone call from a girl that I met when I first started real estate back in 2005. And she told me about a piece of property on Front Beach in Ocean Springs, and she said, the one with the fence around it. And, I mean, I was underneath my house, dude. I remember, remembering certain times when you meet people. And I don't remember a lot of those times, but I remember this one well. I was cleaning out a crawfish pot, so I just had a crab boil, cleaning out a crawfish pot. She calls me. I live in Ocean Springs.
It's
I'm a
a
local
southern
guy.
thing.
Dude, I'm local. And I said, I know that property well. And she's like, well, me and the landowner are good friends, and we want to talk to you about doing something down here. And I said, isn't that a commercial site? And I'm a residential builder. And she said, well, look, let's just meet with them. And I said, I'd love to be a part of it. Because, my wife and I would take our kids, or our son at the time, and we would run up and down Front Beach. So there's this beautiful spot there. It's been sitting there for years and years and years. This is 2015 when she calls me. Mind you, it's 2021 now. Yeah. So let's think about that for a minute. 6 years ago. But I ended up meeting with Lee, and I said, look, I'm a custom home builder. I'm a single family guy or a individual dwelling guy. I'm not a condo guy. We talked to this back and forth, and he said, I tell you what, let me send you down to my house in Seaside, Florida. He's like, take your family, go down there, stay in this place in watercolor. And he said, I want you to look around and see what's there. And then I want you to go down to Rosemary Beach and Alice Beach. And he said, look at that stuff down there. And he said, that's what I want to do here. That was his vision. Initially it was condos, and then we started talking about the single family thing. And he's like, you know what? I want to see if we can do something similar to that here. And I went down there. I fell in love with the place so much that my wife and I got married there. We weren't married at the time. We had a son, man. But we got married there a couple of years later. You know what I mean? We went down there and got married. And actually, I stayed in Lee's house. He let me use his house for our wedding, and I rented a house on the beach. Man, it was awesome. So I went down there. We come back, and we start putting things together. We say, okay, we can do this. We go meet with the city, and Matt will get into the stuff behind that. But long story short, I was fighting floodplain regulations, like how high you have to build, and also I was fighting proximity of houses, how close they were together. And the most important thing to me was the aesthetics of the community. I didn't care about. I never even counted dollar bills. I was like, how can we make this beautiful? And what I saw down in Seaside, Florida, and 30A and all those areas, Alice Beach, Rosemary Beach, was landscaping. Okay, I'm a home builder, but it's landscaping galore. And I thought to myself, we have to deal with this stuff with have to build your house to a certain base flood elevation. But now we're fighting this. We have to fight that. That's hard when you're building houses close together, So then you think, man, I got to spend a lot of money on landscaping. So anyways, we hired an architectural firm. I wanted to use all locals. That was another thing. It was very important to me to use locals. We hired a girl that helped us with our website local. We hired a girl that helped us, Dara Parker. You know her.
Oh, yeah.
We hired her to help us with, she did our logo. We hired Christian Preuss, local landscape architect. I went and talked to 3 other architects. I hired architects paid architects for renderings, local architects on Government Street in Ocean Springs. Paid those architects for renderings. First one was a little bit too far off. You know, it wasn't traditional enough. They do their thing. They do a great work. It's good stuff. Second guy drew beautiful homes. He's a local guy. He drew them down in Seaside, Florida. He's done a lot of stuff down there. He's done a lot of stuff here. Bruce Toller, got to give him a shout out. Great guy. We just couldn't fit our timelines together. And then I finally went to George Denmark, who's a very well-known architect around here, and he does phenomenal work. But we were willing to spend the money. I could have gone to eplans.com if I wanted to. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and made this thing work.
Yeah, no,
like
sure.
I hired the best of the best of the best. Yeah. So we hired one of the best landscape architects I know. That he did all the stuff in Florence Gardens with the alley access.
So Mark real quick though, on that, Matt. When y'all what did you know how much detail he was putting in this when y'all did the project?
Not at first.
That's kind of cool though. It's passion, man.
Oh, it's total passion. And what really excited me when I finally got to meet Mike, I'd known Lee a lot longer than I knew Mike. I knew Lee back before Katrina, back in 2000, maybe as early as 2000. I was introduced to Lee Brumfield, that's Mike's partner, by one of the most well-respected businessmen in the entire city of Ocean Springs, a gentleman by the name of Fred Moran. Okay,
I've met him.
Okay, so Fred
inspiring.
Okay, so Fred,
super good guy.
Fred owns a lot of buildings in downtown Ocean Springs. He owns a lot of land in Jackson County as well as in Ocean Springs. And there's one thing I'll say. He also owns Ocean Springs Lumber Company. There's one thing I'll say about Fred, and I've known him for pretty much as long as I lived in the city of Ocean Springs, which was from 1986 until I moved out in 2019. I live in Gulfport now. But Fred always put his money where his mouth was. He always believed in making the city of Ocean Springs better. He did that by investing his money in buildings, making the buildings work, making the buildings look right and feel right.
So Fred is the office and the Charisma and all the buildings right there, or is that the different developer?
Fred had the office. He developed the office, and the law firm.
Wears the white polo sometimes, like we're just kind of neat, just quiet, kind of shakes your hand.
Fred is a
that's the one I'm trying to think about.
Yeah,
I met the guy, the Moran Real, like right there by the
right down
place
the street.
now.
That's where Fred's office is. But Fred is quiet, truly about what's best for the city of Ocean Springs. He truly
100%. Look at what he's done.
Okay, so Fred called me up one night and he said, I'd like for you to meet with the developer. Well, as an alderman, you had developers that would come in front of you on a regular basis trying to get projects approved, land approved for sketch plat, preliminary plat approval. And Fred said, I want you to meet a developer. I said, okay, Fred. I said, what makes him different from other developers? And believe me, they're good developers, there's great developers, there's bad developers. There's developers that cut corners. There's developers that go the extra mile. He said, this is a really honest guy. What he says is what he's going to do. So he introduced me to Lee Brumfield. Lee Brumfield's family probably was best known in the city of Pascagoula. Okay, they had Brumfields. I believe they had the department store. I may be incorrect about that, but their family was extremely well known, well respected in the city of Pascagoula. Lee owned Singing River Mall before it got demolished.
Oh man, that was good.
That
movie theater they had there, he had everything.
Like, Lee was
respect, dog.
Lee was
that's a good dude, man. For real.
Lee was a very well connected and respected guy because of how he conducted business. So I met with Lee. He told me, he said, I'm going to buy the Iberville Apartments and Ocean Point Apartments. Those were apartments, 112 units that set on the property that is now called the Sands. Okay, Front Beach had those apartments for years and years and years and years. They weren't expensive. You could get in there. So an average working family or a single mom or a single guy could go in there and rent an apartment, have waterfront living. And I used to love that. I was like, man, it didn't cost a lot of money to rent. And you got the same privileges as people that have high dollar homes on Front Beach. Problem was you know, with the, with the price point of those apartments, sometimes you had undesirable people. as an alderman, I would get police reports, and I could see what was happening there. You had drug abuse, you had drug usage, you had drug sales, you had domestic problems, you had prostitution, you had all kind of issues that were going on in these apartments. Lee buys the apartments with the idea that he's going to clean them up and eventually one day tear them down and redevelop them. Along comes a big storm called Hurricane Katrina.
I've heard of it.
2005,
Me too.
August 29th. I'll never forget the date. And it knocks down those apartments. It levels them, okay? So they're no more D'Iberville or Ocean Point apartments. So Lee...
I remember the apartments, man. I really, growing up as a kid, I remember them. So that's where that developed. That's crazy.
I've had some crazy stories there that I don't need to tell on a podcast, but believe me, there was a lot of trouble. There was a lot of trouble there.
Yeah.
And anything that you put there after those apartments would be an absolute drastic improvement and upgrade to that neighborhood. Okay, from a safety standpoint, from a property value increase standpoint, from an aesthetic standpoint, from a management and lack of having to utilize limited resources.
Plus city flow. Plus having people in the area having something developed there, bringing more money in.
Well, property value increases,
tax increases,
sales tax
unbelievable.
increases, school taxes.
Buying a cup of coffee, getting new people to buy a cup of coffee, just bring in because when you
Yeah,
live in Ocean Springs,
period.
people are most of the people in that area in Ocean Springs, and I've loved this about them. They're there and they don't go across the bridge, guys.
Well,
No,
they are kind of territorial. I will say that. But nonetheless, though, Lee's idea was to take that property and he wanted to do condominiums. Now, this was back in 2006, 2007, if my memory serves me correct. Fortunately for Lee, the opposition came from a handful of people. I don't need to name them all. There's no reason to. I'm sure eventually that'll come out in the courts. But the problem was Lee fought an uphill battle trying to develop this high-end. When I say high-end, I'm talking about condominiums that were going to sell for $500,000 or more in 2007. Now, in today's numbers, that would probably be closer to $1 million condos.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so Lee was going to bring a high-end product, high-end finishes, high-end people that were coming to live there. He got a lot of opposition. Neighbors sued him and ultimately shut the project down. In 2008, the economy took a really, really south turn and dropped dramatically, which bottomed out the condominium market. Condominiums, whether they were in Biloxi, whether they were in Orange Beach, Alabama, whether they were in Destin, Florida, it didn't matter. Yeah. Condominiums were devalued immediately in 2008. Lee would have lost his shirt, his rear end, and everything else if he would have gone through that with that project. He was lucky that he was sued to stop it. Okay, he really was. Oh. Hindsight being 20/20. Now, moving forward, the property has stayed empty since 2005. No property tax on anything other than dirt. No school tax on anything other than dirt. Nobody there.
True.
Nobody there to shop in the shops, eat in the restaurants, create more quality of life, more interesting people moving to your city. None of that's happened. There's no more traffic there, but guess what? That's the only positive that I can tell you happened, that there's no more traffic.
Yeah.
Okay, but eventually something has to be built there, and it needs to be of high quality. So in 2014-15, Lee called me and he said, would you mind meeting with me and my new partners? We want to approach you about a project that we think might be much better than condominiums. I said, okay. So we went down and met. We met in a little restaurant in Biloxi. It was a Japanese steakhouse, Sumo's, I believe, in Edgewater Village.
I remember that.
And that was the very first time that I met Mike Butler and his partner, Jennifer Gill, and with Lee. And they laid out, they said, you know what? We had a 112-unit apartment complex there in 2005. We were going to build, I don't remember how many condominium units. I wish I could remember that. I don't remember that exact number. But he said, now we want to build 41 units, 41 houses that are going to be, not all of them close together, but 2 or 3 of them close together, and then we'll build.
But for the houses, and because you took me on the property before I even offered, told you, hey, come on the podcast. We went just looking at the property, the development. This is for me, guys. Like the way I looked at. They're not like little cottages. They're homes. They're
no. These are
beautiful.
I think these were 1,800 square feet to what?
No, Lee's house is over 5,000 square feet, heated and cooled. I mean, this dude's he's got a on the second floor. It's 3 levels livable above the floodplain. So on the second floor, he's got a study in his room.
I've seen it
with 20-foot ceilings. I mean, this is not this. Listen to me real quick. I know I want Matt to get back to the history because it's very important. But just so everybody knows, that house was well over $1 million, and I had 2 pre-sold houses directly next to Lee that were well over $1 million that we had hard deposit money on.
You know what I love about it? The development with the property is the views.
Well, and the view is important, but you have to own the view. And I'll explain that a little.
I'm learning from you, man. You got to. I mean, I'm telling you right now.
I'm gonna explain a little bit about owning view in just a moment, but nonetheless. So,
I love this guy. I love this dude.
Hey,
I'm so glad this worked out, dude. I'm telling you.
I think honestly, I believe God works in mysterious ways, and I'm a guy that when it comes to things like that, and it was a switch. You know, we're coming on, and to have a person like you in my studio is absolutely. I mean, I've heard stories of you. John Carter, shout out to you, buddy. Like loves you to death. I just heard so many stories, and you're like, I'm not having David on. I'm going to have Matt on. I'm like, wait a minute, the Matt, like the Matt I know, like the I hear about Matt.
Yeah,
I've heard so many stories about you and what you've done for the community. So go back to your story, but like you're definitely an inspiration.
Listen, man, I love living here in Mississippi. I was born and raised in Alabama. I told him I got here as fast as I can, and I'm never leaving, man, never. But
he brought that Alabama
respect.
Crimson Tide with him, dude.
Cheers.
Hey man, what part of winning don't y'all like? But nonetheless, so I start to get a feel for the project that Mike and Jennifer and Lee want to do. Now, keep in mind, in 2005, before Katrina, we had an apartment complex that had gotten tired, run down. The quality of the people living there wasn't as high as the quality of the neighborhood around it. There was issues dealing with police calls, having to constantly go in there and deal with drug issues, domestic issues.
And that's a big deal. I mean, it's aggravating.
In the middle of a neighborhood.
Oh, for sure.
A neighborhood
Kids.
that surrounded it.
Yeah.
All right, so they come back, 41 units, and so I asked them, I said, all right, tell me about what kind of finishes, what kind of look, what kind of price point. Because you can kind of gauge what kind of citizens are going to live there by how much it costs to live there. Okay, you know, a guy that has 2 dimes in his pocket's not going to make it. A guy that has a lot of money is going to be the kind of guy that's going to invest in that. So when they told me that the lowest price point was about $450,000, and some of the upper price points were going to be $1,250,000, maybe as high as $1.5 million, I'm going, you're building 41 units, and the cheapest house is going to be $450,000. Now, in 2015, that was a tremendous amount of money for a home in Ocean Springs. Now, the prices of real estate in Ocean Springs has escalated exponentially over the last 5 years.
I'll tell you on this though, real quick. Before I bought my, before I was house shopping probably 6-7 years ago, and I was like right behind Tater Nut or whatever. I was looking at a house with no central heat and air for $285,000.
$285,000. Okay. hey.
I'm just being honest with you.
Guess what? That same house right now would be $500,000.
And I told, and I remember going having
should have bought it, dude.
With Kenny. Well, I should have bought it, but I mean, I was having drinks with Kenny Holloway. Shout out to Kenny Holloway. I was meeting him, and I remember telling him like, it's not for me. Like, it didn't have central heat and air. Like, I'm young and I wanted to live in the area. I think everybody, even now, it's such a big area now.
Dude, I love that area. It's a
the
beautiful
best
spot.
You can't beat it.
I even went as far when I
there.
even went as far as when I was the alderman. That part of the beach, for whatever reason, there was always a lot of orange clay in that section of Front Beach, and I never understood why. So when we built the sidewalk, when Mayor Moran wanted the sidewalk built, I got part of the money that was allocated towards sidewalk to improving the landscaping of that area. If you go there today, there's green grass. There's a kind of a patio area that you can go out that's all grass. And it just really turned out nice. We planted trees, shrubbery.
Oh, you're the guy behind a lot of this stuff.
Yes.
Oh, that's
that happened under my wife.
Cheers, bro. That's that. Because I was wondering who, like, the
I'm gonna
clean.
need another beer after all these
Let's
cheers.
grab a couple beers right now. There's no rush, bro. Like, this is how we do it.
All right. So we got the beach all nice and clean, anticipating that this project was coming. I knew my time was short. I knew that I was not going to run for office after 2017. So they came to us with sketch plat. It's where you take a look at the concept of the project. Okay, what is the concept? How many units? How big are the units? What are the size of the lots? What is the infrastructure? How is all that going to come into play? That's all kind of figured out in sketch plat approval. They come to us with a good plan. We approve it unanimously amongst the 7 aldermen. Mayor didn't need to vote. There wasn't any tie to break. 7 aldermen liked the project.
They were like, dude, let's go.
I mean, it was a $30 million residential project in the middle of a residential neighborhood. Okay, it was a no-brainer. Right? So
in 2015.
Now,
and you're more welcome to like grab a couple beers. We always get up on the on the show. You're allowed.
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't get any really hard objections. There are a few guys. There's one guy, like I said, I don't want to name any names. I don't want to get anybody all worked up about it. But one guy came up and would complain at our meetings that development would block his view. Well, if you live behind that piece of property and somebody builds a home that does block your view, it's the person that owns the property that owns the view. And that's why I told you, we'd get back to that. Okay. Now, I have a piece of property that I live on in Gulfport, but I have a lot in front of me. And if somebody builds on that lot, then I don't have the view of the Mississippi Sound like I have right now.
And I'm with you on that because it's one of the things where it's like, we're growing. People are being born every day. Like we're not, it's every year. They're bigger, more people, life. I mean, there's land. Land is key, and development, you can't stop development. I'm sorry, you can't in the cities. You can't educate,
But the best part though, this was good development. I mean, it was high end, high quality. It was going to attract people with money to our city to raise the tax base, to raise sales taxes, to bring higher quality of life, reduce crime that had been there before. All of these things were all positive. So we passed the sketch plat approval unanimously. Then that's when their work really began because they had to develop infrastructure. They had to figure out what do we got to put in the ground to make this work. So they get all those plans done, and I have no idea how much they spent. Michael can elaborate.
A lot. Well, I just want to say, too, the sketch plat was an idea, right? And so me focused on aesthetics. Aesthetics was so important to me. Like there was never even a consideration of one of my sayings at my company is don't ever cut a corner for a $1 bill.
I love that.
It's just the truth, man. We got to make this thing beautiful. So we hired an engineering firm. The guy and I are still friends today, but we hired the engineering firm. But those engineers don't necessarily have aesthetics in mind. So what my job is to take this engineering mind and take this architectural mind and mold those two together to get the best finish. You understand what I'm saying? So the engineers drew up at sketch plat. They drew up this preliminary plan, and it wasn't beautiful. It was a cul-de-sac type feel, but the idea was let's get this plan passed through them. They passed the concept basically, right, Matt? And then we went back to the drawing board, and then I ended up meeting Christian Preuss. I don't remember exactly how, but I met him, and we said, look, let's do this alley concept. So now we're going to take this development, and we're not going to have them all the houses facing one street. We're going to have alley access from the rear. We're going to do this old school feel. It's like the smart code that they picked up in Gulfport and Biloxi. It's just like Florence Gardens, where you pull behind your house in an alley, you pull in the back of your house, and you kind of live like Mayberry. Dude, it's awesome. Yeah. But the development cost on doing something like that is significantly higher because you're putting more streets in the back, and you got more blacktop, you got more curbing, you got all that stuff. So we went back to the drawing board, and the original plan that we submitted with them, again, was the concept. But when we came back, we had a beautiful, beautiful development. We took green space. We took one of the most important pieces of property on the front, Okay, we've got this big green space, and we tied it into that green space that y'all did on Front Beach. So what Matt did with that little patio area he talked about earlier, we took that into our design.
I didn't know that was yours.
He did that.
That's sick, bro. Like, I mean, shout out to you, dude, for real.
Yeah, and so we took that and we incorporated it into our design. So we have the same exact thing. The lot where we put the design, I could sell today for $400,000.
And y'all are similar in this. It's same with you. Like, you get up, like, same thing with you. It's like you just want to make things better, beautiful.
Well, not only that, but I knew what was. I knew what had been there, and now we have an opportunity with local developers that I have vetted. Now I've vetted this guy. I had already vetted Lee Brumfield. And the fact that Lee was recommended to me by a guy by the name of Fred Moran, who is probably as credible of a guy as there is in the whole city of Ocean Springs.
He's a legend.
Yeah, I mean,
we're just learning.
Look,
just growing our horns.
I don't have a lot of time with
Pass the torch.
I don't have a lot of time with my real job, and when I was alderman, to deal with people that weren't real. Okay, I wanted to deal with people that had money, had ideas, had the gumption and the get-go to make things happen. And that's what I found with Lee, and that's what I found with Mike. But nonetheless, after we did sketch plat, and between sketch plat and preliminary plat is where the city fire marshal, the city public works director, the city planner, all these people now get involved to make sure that this code is met, and this code is met, and that this fire safety measure is there, and that this fire hydrant is where it needs to be, and this drainage culvert can handle this amount of volume of water. So all these things were looked at, and they were vetted by multiple departments with the city. The only issue that really came into play was the zoning. Well, it was zoned R1A, and you know what? I don't want to belabor zoning because zoning.
But what is R1A?
That is multifamily housing. Okay, basically apartments. And I don't want to belabor the nitpicking technicalities of zoning because it's boring, and I really didn't like to study it. I had to rely on the experts at the city attorney, the city planners, and those guys to be able to tell me that that we were correctly zoned. And so when we got to preliminary plat, that was really the only question that I had about the project. Will it pass the muster of zoning? Because it's not apartments, it's really kind of townhouses that are going to be individual houses at a very high dollar, very high quality of appointments, high landscaping. Everything was just first class. So there was nobody on our board that did not want this project to work. Everybody wanted it to work. So we said, let's figure out how to make it work. Well, we passed preliminary plat. Now, between preliminary plat and final plat, and I'll let Michael further discuss this because I've been out of municipal government now for 4 years. So
how's that feel? I just wanted that.
I feel like I got out. I feel like I got paroled.
There you go.
Yeah, I feel like I got paroled.
Real quick, where I stand on this kind of stuff is I bought my home from Albert Pritchard, Competition Marines. This is their family home. Like, you know, I bought their home, and there's a lot next door. Mm-hmm. Same size, same lot. Well, it was their lot in this house, but their kids got older, decided to, you know, sell the house, you know, move up into their business, which shout out to Competition Marines. And the thing is, they kept the property next door. They still have it. It's their property. And I remember a few months back, and he goes, "Man, I'm probably going to build next door to you." And I looked at him, I said, "I got all the bourbon you want, bro." Because that's me, like a development, like a person, like a good, it's not only you bring buildings, right? You're bringing people, you're bringing life, you're bringing, there might be this, like.
But here's the easy thing to understand about that. If he's building up to code and he's building to the standards that this neighborhood requires, you should have no worry.
I don't. That's
you should have no worry.
And he thought, he's like, because I try to, you know, I was going to buy the property just to have it, just to have the property because, you know, just to have it. And then he goes, the price went way up. I'm like, why's your price so high? And he goes, bruh, he's like, you know, so Sarah's like, been thinking about, because they have an orange tree, beautiful orange tree. And he goes, I want to be home. I said, well, I ain't selling you
Dude,
my
that's
house.
awesome. That's awesome.
We're gonna be
man.
neighbors, bro. He's probably in his
So he's
60s.
connected to the property.
He wants that orange tree, man. You know
but
what?
So he's connected. He's connected to that.
Aubrey,
property.
I eat
That's
your
the
oranges. I jumped the fence that you built when I bought the house. You didn't know who I was. Now you know me. I eat your oranges, bro. Well, better get them.
Can I get one? Are there any right now, or is it too cold?
You can, but I'm saying like it's just that's my thing about people. Like when I see like the development, like and what the work you put in, I didn't know you're the guy behind making ocean like and because I know that district because Ricky is like family to me. You know, honestly, Ricky's been to my son's my baby shower before I had my own kid. Ricky was there with me on 2nd Street at my parents' house.
Well, Ricky was the alderman. He is the alderman now. He is the alderman that replaced me. I did 6 terms. Ricky is finishing his 1st term. Okay, and Ricky's running again. And you know what? I wish Ricky a lot of luck, man. That is a tough ward.
Dude, he runs around.
That is a tough ward to get reelected.
Yeah,
in. It is.
And crew and Neptunes when I do like event stuff.
Yeah,
he's on a Saturday night. He's out there when he's out there at 9 o'clock at night just checking on people.
dude, he's a workaholic.
God,
man.
he's one of the most. He inspires me, and I told him that he inspires me with his blue jean shorts and his boots and his polo.
You know what? I think
Ricky.
Blue
you know
jean
what I mean.
shorts.
And
He called you out with the blue jean shorts. That's awesome.
Listen, Ricky's done a good job, and I hear that from constituents that call me, and you know what? I wish him a lot of luck in his.
You know what, dude? But if you're genuine, I mean, even if you have disagreements, if you're a genuine person and you do a good job, that's what we care about. And Rick is a genuine person, right?
Well,
he does a good job.
And I'm not here to promote or to endorse any political candidate, but I'm just telling you, Ricky, for the most part, from what I hear, has done a good job, and that's a tough ward.
You just got a heart, man.
That is a tough ward to represent. It is very tough.
And you did it for years.
24.
And look at you now doing the Coliseum. And that's another thing, too, is we do got to bring this up. Is the Coliseum, now you got your own little bar down there, huh, bro? Or just I got to...
Listen, we're always trying to make improvements to where we can stay relative and stay competitive with facilities in Louisiana, Alabama, Pensacola, Jackson, Birmingham. We got to stay competitive. But nonetheless, let's get back to his project. His project.
I love him.
I know. What is the bar though? I really want people to know. Like, what is the bar you did though, real quick?
It's called It's called a locker room.
And can we go? How's this work?
It's gonna open when we do events when we welcome events back in the arena. There'll be an upcharge on tickets. It'll include VIP parking right next to the entrance to the locker room.
That's dope.
Okay, you got private entrance, you got private restrooms. Your food in the locker room is included in your upcharge. Your alcohol you'll have to pay for, but it's higher end. It's higher end alcohol that's not available at any other spot in the Coliseum.
And here's one thing I always say is like, especially when I do things, I'd rather pay for the alcohol so I don't have to, like for me, it's like I'd rather the convenience. When I do an event, I ain't thinking about I want catering. I want my alcohol. I want it. I want my drinks, whatever. But shout out to David and Brad, Mashana Batano.
They're the ones that did the work,
dope.
man. Look, those are the guys that came up with the design of it.
Oh, they're amazing.
And they oversaw the construction through DNP. DNP was the contractor, and they did a fantastic job. We took a space that was dormant since 2014 when the hockey team left, and now it's going to become a high-end, high experience place where you come for the show. Not only do you see the show, but now your experience has gotten better because you got a high-end place to go.
And for the projects and everything we do in the podcast or whatever, I think for me it's always going to be how do we help each other? How do we talk about influences, like for instance the Sands, the project. You're doing this because you know the way you are about your projects, and I see it because I love you to death. But the way you walk in your buildings and your houses and the love you have for it and your craft and stuff, and you just want a better community for families and kids. Like you said, about drugs being there at the old place. Now we're going to have new stuff. So, or we're going to work to have that. But like you're getting up, like I said, you're getting up and how can you make tomorrow better?
Well, the bottom line is the property is still vacant. It is 2021. The property was
it looks an eyesore.
The property was vacated in 2005, August 29th, and it's been vacant since then. It is probably one of the highest use property, or could be the highest use property in the entire city if they can work out how to get it developed. They've got some opposition. I'm hoping that clearer minds and rational people will sit down and figure out, wow, we could really do something nice here. We could really do something nice here.
I hoped a lot for that too, Matt, as far as clearer minds. But let me tell you something. It's just like anything in the world. And you probably have gotten more cynical over the years as you get older, because as a young person going into this, I mean, let's be honest. 2015, my son was 1 year old. We just celebrated his 7th birthday. So let's think. Old. Let's think about. Well, wait a minute. I mean, I'm talking about it makes the project feel old. You know what I mean? But yeah, my son too. So now I have a daughter who's 2 years old. But anyway, the point is I've moved twice. I sold my house I was living in then. I went to a rental house. I built a whole nother house. You know, I'm living in that house now for a year. So time has passed. You know, but I tried the best I could do. To meet with the opposition. So what do you do? You know, my wife says one of her favorite things about me is I just hit them head on, right? If there's an issue, let's just hit it head on. Let's get it solved. I can't have this weight on my shoulders. Let's figure it out. Let's get past it. So, but my point behind your comment there about let's hope for, you know, this stuff to happen is I met that opposition. Again, we're not going to say any names because we're not here to slander anybody or talk negatively about anybody. Everybody's got their own opinions, right? As much as I want to say things and I want to talk negatively about certain people, I'm not going to do it because I'm trying to take this high road.
Kindness.
I'm trying the best I can, man. And I've had these personal conversations with quote unquote the enemy, right? So I've had these conversations with this guy or these people or this couple or whatever, and there's no, like, from my perspective, Matt, and I hope beyond hope, you understand? From my perspective, there is no hope of a mutual agreement. You understand? Well, but when you go through this, and this is me becoming older and wiser and realizing that you're always going to have
older. None of us are older,
dude. I'm 30. I'll be 40 in a couple months, and I've been doing this since 2015. I mean, you understand? So this has been a very, very long road for me, and I was so excited about this project. You don't understand, dude. I'm serious. Like imagine putting everything you have into something. No kidding. All of it. You put it all in there, and you're just focused and focused. I remember telling my superintendent, man, you got to handle these houses. I took a little bit less role in everyday day-to-day operations in Butler Homes, which over the long term made him a better person. But I'm like, I've got to handle this project. If I showed you the files on my computer, dude, I'm talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of work. My wife called me the other day. She said, hey, where's my Sands file? I can't find it in Dropbox. And I said, hold on a sec, baby. I went through it. I looked. Of course, I'm a little aggravated because I got my own thing going on at work. But I looked through the files, and I'm like, here it is. It's right here. And she's like, thank God. That's thousands of hours of work. And I'm thinking, that's thousands of hours of work on your side, which is the finishes selections, which you're putting the finishes together. I'm putting the architects together, the engineers together, the development together. I developed the property. I hired the guy to develop the property. I hired the guy to put the curbs in. I hired the guy to put the blacktop in. I hired the guy to do the $50,000 worth of preliminary landscaping that's sitting there rotting right now.
Just to make it beautiful. I mean, just to make an impact.
I spent $50,000 on preliminary landscaping. That's crazy, man. Lee's house, my house. We were spending. There was more than $500,000 of landscape. I told you we talked about landscape earlier, and I'm a builder. You think I'm supposed to care about landscape? No, but in my world where I see the vision of the end of the project, it was all about landscape, man.
Yeah, but Mike, the reason that you are considered a quality or a high quality builder is because you do care about landscape, and that's part of the finished product, man.
And that's saying
and now listen, I gotta give complete openness and clarity. Mike Butler built my home. Okay. I live on 2nd Street in Gulfport, Mississippi.
No address there. Don't give that out.
No, I'm not going to give out the address.
I'll come over for shish kebabs.
But I chose
it's a good address.
I chose.
I ain't giving it out.
I chose Mike Butler because when I met him and I saw the level of finishes that they were showing me that they were going to put in the sands and the level of landscaping and how cool the exteriors of these homes looked and how they had tiered the homes on elevated land to where the home in the back was higher, so it had a view. And the home in the middle was a little bit lower, and it had a view. And the home on the front, while it had to be elevated to meet FEMA codes, it too had a view. So I'm going, wow, the front, the middle, and the back all have a view of the water. And I'm going to tell you right now, the view of the water is a very, very wonderful view.
We're having a slumber party.
It's a wonderful view.
We're having a slumber party.
Hey, no, I'm so glad you said that because I had forgotten about it. The house on the very, very back of the property could see straight through the line and had a view of the sound right there looking at Deer Island, man.
And that's funny you said that, because like when we walked a couple the abandoned buildings that are there, the houses that are there that are like they're just sitting there and they've been there since 2018. He did that, like I'm telling you, like before I mentioned, hey bro, like I love you, come on the pod, like come on the podcast. But he brought me just to show me his work from what he's got going on now, and we just rode around. But he showed me he showed me all the development and how much even the smaller house had the views, and like the project, like the small house. But it's like he's like, look at this. He like look at the window here, and look how this is staged, and look at the shower head here, and it's like he's like so into like it needs to feel this way, and it needs to look this way. It's like a kid in a candy store, and you're just riding along with him.
And after getting to know Mike and understanding that project, and then seeing some of the other homes that he'd built in other parts of the coast, Biloxi, Gulfport, Ocean Springs. I rode around over near Sunkist Golf Course. He built a home, and I rode over there one day, and the people kept looking at me funny, like I was casing their house to rip them off, and I was like, no. I said,
checking it out.
I said, the guy that built your house, I'm about to hire to build my house. I wanted to see how your house looked. I don't need to come in. I'm just trying to look.
Did they bring you in though?
No. I didn't. I never went in. But nonetheless, I can't say enough about the quality of work that this guy does. Okay, I invested my life savings. This is the last house I'll ever build. I will die in this home in Gulfport, Mississippi, and I trusted him to do that. And you know what?
He killed it.
He killed it, and if I had to do it,
cheers, bro. It's Cheers channel. We just cheers, guys.
It's like a drinking game, man. I love it.
It's life.
If I had to do it again, I'd do it exactly the same way I did it. And I had some personal issues dealing with my son that was in a really bad car accident that kind of could have derailed the project. Mike didn't give up on me. I didn't give up on Mike, and he understood that I had to work through some of those issues, and we had to slow roll some things. But the whole experience was fantastic. You could never look. I built a home right after Katrina, and it was like, let me make sure that this guy shows up more than one day a week. Okay, and it took me so long to get a house built after Katrina, so I didn't have a good experience the first time I built a house, and that was in downtown Ocean Springs. Now I'm building in Gulfport. Mike Butler's my builder. It's a wonderful experience. The quality of the home, I can't tell you how nice the home is, but if he is able to successfully get this project going, and I pray that he is, and it will be beyond anybody's wildest belief as to what it will do for that piece of real estate in one of the most pristine and protected areas.
Let's
of
call
Ocean
it your
Springs.
baby, though. I
got.
But it's Matt's baby. Like honestly, your development, like his love is like
But I knew how bad what was there was, and now to understand that what could be there if everybody would just get on the same page and figure out this can work. It can work.
And again, look, Matt. First of all,
that's dope, bro.
Dude, what you just said. I mean, that's why I do what I do.
I love you. Hey, Mike,
I love you, bro.
Mike,
I love you like a brother right now.
I try to negotiate deals, man. I negotiate a lot of deals in a lot of ways.
Like your respect for real quick though, your respect for the development between you guys, like and like you doing this and like you starting to see Ocean Springs, like because I remember growing up, I lived off Halstead.
Okay.
So I remember when it was just Tater Nut.
Right.
So it wasn't what it was, and it was never like a downtown development. So like you being the guy that, because I know your district, like you're the guy that pushed that development. Like you're the guy that that's crazy. And then he fucking sorry, but that's my world. I said it, fudging.
It's good.
He sees the same devotion he has for community into you, and you built this house.
I didn't listen. I never wanted to leave public office, and somebody said you messed up the Golden Goose, which was downtown, the waterfront.
Yeah,
that is Ward 2 OS. One of my favorite watering holes in Ward 2 OS is a dive bar called Sweets Lounge. It is the oldest bar with the coldest beer in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Okay, and I always laugh about that. Okay, but Ward 2 is an eclectic, unique spot where people think about the charm, the beauty, the coolness of Ocean Springs. They think about Ward 2, and Ricky will tell you that. I can tell you that. Whoever is the alderman 20 years from now will tell you Ward 2 is the coolest place in Ocean Springs. Man.
It is.
It's the coolest place.
No, I met Ricky at the DMV. We both lost. This is a true story. I met Ricky at the DMV in Van Cleef. So in 57. And before he was an alderman, I met Ricky. We both lost our license. Didn't even know, honestly.
I'll take a break. I'll be right back.
Okay, but I didn't even know, like, I didn't know who I'm sitting next to. Yeah. I like talking. Like, yeah. And Ricky was sitting there like, and we were just talking. I was like, oh no, I lost my license. Like inside my car. He goes, me too. It's like, I'm like, what? It fell in like, and so we became friends. And then I knew Haley Martin. Shout out to Haley Martin. She helped with his campaign and push it. But like, I remember like, let's come out. Like, and they were telling me to come out to have a crawfish thing. And when I met him, we hit it off. Yeah. But then I got there with my camera, because I bring my camera just to take pictures of whatever I want. It's not a whatever I want.
Good time.
Ricky's campaigin. I'm like, bro, no.
So he hooks you up. Yeah.
No, dog. That's and that's a respect of how I met somebody that. And this is this is not y'all, but this is me as like I look at Ricky as like I love you. I mean, for how successful he is with Hibs and stuff,
yeah,
he's got the same heart and vision of.
Well, anybody that works that hard, man. I mean, look at Ricky. The guy works. I had a meeting with him the other day. He just wants a better community like you want, the same way you look at your houses, man. Like your houses are pieces of art. I think 150 years from now, when we're gone, we're gonna be gone. Can we not talk about that?
No, but I'm saying, but if it does happen, kidding, I think the Butler homes will be a landmark. I think they will have a plaque. Hopefully we get a plaque, and maybe we'll do some black and white pictures.
So I've actually had a client. I had a client one time tell me to put some driveway plaques in, or put something in the bricks, or something like that.
It's like art.
It's like the Ishii homes. You know, Ishii built his houses.
Oh, Chase has got an Ishii home.
Yeah, I wish I could be on that level. I don't know. And the stuff that Matt just said earlier, man, that was phenomenal. You know, you don't often get to hear people, praise your work like that. And that was, the fact that I can sit here and listen to a guy say that, Matt's never. I mean, he's always told me he appreciates me and all that good stuff. Yeah. And
it's the table.
You get.
No, we make it like we're serious. Like when we started our podcast, and everybody, because I'm identifying y'all and listeners. Yeah. So we have this like niche of like, how you gonna find us?
So it's not me. It's the table. Is what you're saying.
It's a table. But it's a love. It's a table. Like how often do you have a conversation with a person?
Hey, that's good.
Without a text message or a phone or trying to sell something, let's have our hearts out.
Well, you know what? I think you just really maybe hit on the problem and the solution. The problem and the solution. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So when you can't sit down, and have these kind of conversations, I wish his opposition was sitting right there.
Yeah.
Where
he sat there three times.
Yeah, but I wish he would sit there where you, as a outside observer, a neutral party, could say, okay, what is it about Mike's and Lee's project that you don't like? What is it that you would not want to see there? What would you really want to see there? What is it that we can come to in common ground?
Can we talk about that?
Because you know what? I know you've tried, and I understand that. And I'm not blaming you for it not working. That's not what this is about. The problem is when you quit talking and you quit trying to communicate and figure out how to solve these differences, that's why this project is still stuck on stupid.
Well, let me say
it's still stuck on stupid, man.
Let me say something to
that.
True. So let me go ahead. This is a good point. That is a very good point, Matt.
I'm sorry, Matt. Sorry.
We got it back.
No, you're good. No, that's an excellent point.
Right here if you need it.
No, we're good. We're good. Okay. if it goes again, man, I'm getting the pliers. All right.
This is a real heart show, bro.
I'm glad you have those pliers there.
I don't mess around, bro.
No, you did good. I'm proud of you. I'm actually pretty impressed with you right now, dude. So I'm proud of you. How about you? Always tell me you're proud of me. And
I want whatever we do.
You know what I really like? I like the way your beard kind of covers the microphone when you talk.
Yeah, but I want like people. I want it to know that this. And I say the table. And Matt's always told me this. Matt, shout out to Matt. I love you to death. I know you couldn't be here. And
I wish you could. It's my fault, Matt. Next time, dude.
Yeah.
Me and you. Whatever.
Me and Matt, like when we started this, but Matt always says it always ends at the table.
That's perfect.
And that's the truth, because your heart is.
It's right here.
But my son is gonna realize what his dad tried to accomplish with the Pink Dress Run with John Carter and things we do. Y'all are the same people.
Well, I realize a lot more.
But you know what, man? I'm a lot older than both of you guys. Okay,
You're not older than both. No, you're beautiful.
I'm 61 years old, but I can remember as a child, and I have that dining room table that I did my homework on. My mom made sure I had it before she died. Okay, and so I have that dining room table, and I can remember sitting there with my parents, talking through problems that they had with me growing up in my adolescence. Because I wasn't the easiest child to raise. Trust me when I tell you that.
I'm going to put a table at my house.
But the thing was being able to sit at that table, and I always found that that's where you work those problems out. So I totally buy into your table concept, man. Your table concept is real.
This table right here is built by my stepdad, Scott Levenway.
Okay.
So I spent $450 on this table. Scott built this by hand because he kind of knew my vision of starting. I kept saying I want to start this. You seen the vinyl rim of the wood and stuff.
Yeah.
That was our first project of that's how I wanted to podcast.
Yeah.
So, but Scott spent, maybe a couple of days. He smelt the wood. He's a wood. He really does. He makes stuff for family and stuff, but it's a passion. It's a side project. You do fishing. We all have that. But the table, respect though. It's the table.
It's the table.
I got to get back to my point if y'all don't mind about that. But no, I agree with the whole thing. We got to have a table in our household. The fact that I'm here, I'm not kidding you, man. Like I see into your vision a whole lot more now that I'm here.
I just love people.
And you know what? I appreciate you inviting me on this thing a lot. And the fact that I haven't come, until recently, man, I wish I'd have come sooner.
You just got back on Facebook yesterday.
Yeah, I know. I've been avoiding the world, dude. Can I do a cheers? Can I do a cheers?
Yeah, cheers.
For Matt? All right, let me get this point out, though. So I agree 100% with what you said about the table situation. So let me give you all a little scenario. The first project, we had issues with the zoning. Okay, so there were issues. Let's get full disclosure. It didn't work out the way the city had looked at it or whatever, and decided that it was functional. The neighbors they filed a what's it called, Matt? It's not a lawsuit. It's
injunction.
I don't think they filed an injunction, but they did it within their 10 days. They appealed. So they appealed to the county or whatever, and they ended up ultimately winning, which stopped the project. Okay, stop the project, and we'll get into some other stuff.
Now this was correct me if I'm wrong. Y'all had already sunk $1.5 million or more money into this.
So when they appealed, you got sketch plat, preliminary plat, final plat. So preliminary plat basically gives you the permit. Here you go. You can do it. Yeah. And final plat, I compare it to housing.
I was on the board of aldermen that voted to give him the preliminary plat approval. Okay, and it was a unanimous vote, if my memory is correct. That was back in 2017. And so that was the city saying, we have figured out a way that you can build 41 high-end homes, not apartments.
Yeah.
Okay, and I have nothing against apartment living. Apartment living is right for some people.
Right for that spot. Okay, it's all the highest and best use on
property. It's the problem. Real estate in Ocean Springs. You see it every time.
But to me, 41 high-end homes was a much higher use and a much better development than building 112 apartments, because that's what was there, 112 apartments. So you could have had more density. Really? They could have made more money by building 112 apartments back on that land. More. 112 apartments they could have built. So to get 41 high-end homes instead of 112 apartments is a lay-down, no-brain concept.
You know why we did it?
Lay down, no-brain.
You know why we did it?
Wow.
To fit better within the community. Our whole goal was to 100% fit better within the community. It wasn't 100% profit driven. It was we're going to do something. Of course, you want to get paid for making changes or whatever and building some stuff. Obviously, I got to make money. I got to feed my family. But that was number two. Number one was, how can we make this community work? Nobody believes me when I say that. It was the 100% truth. So, anyways, we present this to them. There was no collusion with the city. They're always like, there's this backroom deals or whatever going on. There was no backroom deals. We went to the city. Can we do this concept? Yes, you can do this concept. Thank you for letting us do this concept. We spend $1 million, give or take, on the development. We get the preliminary plat. We spend the money. We develop all the horizontal infrastructure, curbs, roads,
drainage,
water, sewer, drainage.
So my question,
gas,
my question though, as I'm interviewing you guys, my question on this is, so you're putting effort into better your community.
Absolutely.
What's the deal? I just want to know the deal.
This is where I'm getting to that. Give me.
Listen, I'm still perplexed, okay, and I hadn't been on the board of aldermen for 4 years.
I'm getting sideways on this.
Listen, I am still perplexed, but because listen, occasionally I go back to Ocean Springs and visit friends and shop over there and eat in the restaurants, and I drive by Front Beach, and you know what? The property's still vacant, and it's like, dude, why?
It's weird, bro.
Why is this property still vacant? Okay, why isn't there high-end homes bringing a stronger tax base, more people that you want in your community, a higher,
brother? I've been there.
I've
been living it.
A higher increase in property value all around you. So not only does the developer benefit from this development, but the people that live around it the development benefit because it increases their property value. No one's going to live in the same real estate forever. Forever is a long time. So whenever you choose to sell, whether you're going to assisted living, whether you're moving out of the community, whether a loved one dies and you downsize, don't you want to be able to sell your home for more than you paid for it? Come on, this is America. This is what you try to achieve, man.
Brain right now. I know.
This is what you try to achieve, man.
Give me your brain. Let's cheers to that, boys. But go ahead with your Mike. What you were saying?
Well, I mean, the bottom line is so they got their little. We spent the money.
Yeah.
They don't stop the development at preliminary plat, which means, hey, we're going to stop it before you spend the money. They let us spend the money, and then they stop it after we spend the money. So the money's spent. We pulled 2 permits on 2 homes I'm building, those 2 homes that I walked you through. The window package on one of them costs more than a lot of people's houses.
For sure.
I mean, it's insane what we're doing down there. The views, dude. Remember when we went to the 3rd floor?
That
Horn Island looked like Deer Island. Remember that?
Well,
it was,
I think the thing I was trying to talk about the views again. He said the same thing that I was telling Emily. I was like, Emily's my girl. You know Emily. I love you. But I was fascinated because he had the way I see it, and because the views, like it's the design of the way people, no matter where you're at, you're going to get a view.
Yeah, that's right.
That's respect,
right.
bro. Like, I mean,
I appreciate it.
Hey, that's
but that was the quality.
That was the point, man.
That was the quality of the design. And these were things that we saw. When I say we, I'm talking about me and 6 other aldermen and a mayor saw the due diligence that Lee and Michael and Jennifer did to make sure that every structure on that property was positioned to where they had a view. And I'm going, how do you get 41 different views on 6 acres of land, but every one of them have a view? That is so cool. And you know what? The crying shame about this whole deal is that if I was still on the board of aldermen, I'd go back and insist that we get those 41 homes. True. I wouldn't want apartments.
Yeah.
I would not want I would not want apartments. I would not want anything other than what they came with, because that was the best development that I have ever seen proposed for that piece of real estate. The best.
Yeah. So I appreciate that too, man. But at the end of the day, let's get back to the legal aspect of it, right? So a judge rules in their favor and says, hey, we're going to stop this because it doesn't. You do have an argument here. It doesn't follow the code the way the city says it follows the code. And keep in mind, when we went to the city,
can be changed, though, right?
Yeah, of course. But the city has the right to do what they want, within reason. But
why wouldn't you want? Let's look at it from a practicality standpoint.
Yeah,
all right,
exactly.
From a practical standpoint. All right, why would you not want to, even if you had to change the zoning or change the rules, quote? Why wouldn't you want to change it to get the absolute best end product for the neighborhood, for the city, for everybody involved? Why? I mean, how easy is that to understand?
I'm gonna put his face on a shirt.
It won't sell, man. It will not.
I'm gonna sell the shirt. Yeah, we're selling that shirt, bro.
Oh, yes, it will.
Yes, but that's the truth.
Practicality right underneath it. But no, it's so I mean, again, back to the legality. Like, Matt, obviously I couldn't agree with you more, but at the end of the day, I have to deal with the cards that are dealt me, right? Yeah. So I deal with the cards that are dealt me. Okay, so we spent more money than I've ever thought that I would be involved in on a project. And keep in mind, my business, Butler Homes, is doing well. And so I'm parlaying, dude. Like I'm over here. Okay, let me spend some more money over here. I got a little help.
And this is for small builders that need to know. Like, I mean, this is a cool thing. But for because they're builders that are listening, the people that are getting your industry.
Yeah,
they need to know. Like, go ahead. Cause you talk about
careful.
This.
Be super
but go
careful.
with your parlay. But like you invested.
Oh, I'm super
there.
invested. I'm invested with time.
And Josh, I love you.
Josh, yeah, my buddy. Good God, we got to definitely talk about Josh. I mean, Josh. Without Josh, there's no Butler Homes.
No, there's no because I love Josh.
Without Matt Swank, my superintendent. I don't know if you've met him. There's no Butler Homes, dude. It's not about Mike Butler. Like I tell everybody all the time. I named my real estate company Blackstone because I didn't want to name it after myself. The only reason we named this company Butler Homes is because I was in the industry and I left another company and I had to be like, okay, Butler, I'm leaving. So I wanted people to know that I was going.
My interruption on that was just because they're like Matt on our viewership of this is people like that are small builders that do watch our show.
Yeah.
That look up to Butler Homes.
Well, but you know what though, there are a lot of quality home builders. I had a list of guys when I started exploring building a home on 2nd Street. And when it got right down to it, it really was about a comfort level. It was about who do you trust to invest your money in that's going to develop a high-end product, the quality that you want, that'll give you the flexibility to make some changes as the
So you really went into your when you got that property, you were
I didn't know when I bought the property. I had no idea who was going to build my house. None, zero.
That's dope.
I bought the property in April of 2016 from a gentleman. His last name was Gargiulo, and he had owned it. His family had owned it and lost their home there during Katrina, and he never rebuilt. And I was able to buy his property, and I had no idea who was going to build my home. But when I finally pulled the trigger about this is who I'm going to select, there had to be a comfort level. There had to be somebody that I trusted. There had to be somebody that I felt was going to be flexible to where if I needed to make a change and I needed to make my closet bigger.
I'm good.
Okay, if I needed to make my closet bigger, or I needed to add a small closet off my kitchen where I could keep a garbage can, that I could go to him before it was too late and say, hey, can we make this change? There was never a time during the 15 months, and the only reason I drug it out that long was because I had to deal with issues dealing with my son's accident. But nonetheless, there was never a time that I went to Mike and said, Mike, I'd like to make this change. He said, Matt, we can do anything. It just costs money. He'd tell me how much he thought it would cost. I would evaluate it. We'd make that change. But nonetheless, that's my personal.
But
that is my personal.
But what you're sharing
relationship
is the same way I look at you.
But that is,
but I'm saying the respect as a person.
But
that's why that same way. Like I'm just saying, like the same way you're talking about being there as a builder, like trusting somebody with all your investments,
all my money,
all your money. Okay, it's love, bro. That's respect, dog.
No,
dude, that's the biggest.
That.
But here's the beauty of it though, is that if I had that comfort level with my own money, do you think that I didn't have that same comfort level before I ever selected him as my builder to build a $30 million home development on probably one of the biggest pieces of pristine real estate in my entire district that I represented for 24 years? Come on. I would never pick a developer that was a fly-by-night that said, oh, yeah, I'm going to trust you. Go ahead. I'm not going to do that.
Can I ask a question, though? Why haven't you ran for governor?
Who, him?
He should be our governor.
No, man. I'm done with politics.
I'm saying with the heart and the thank you for bringing him. And thank you for coming.
God works in mysterious ways,
we're
man.
going. We're not
you know
done.
what?
Like I'm having too much fun.
No. You know, he was supposed to come on Tuesday to the office and meet, and for some, I had soccer, and then
we pushed it back today.
We pushed it back, and he was there, and he started talking about the Sands, and I was like, dude, that passion. I'm serious. He's always got this passion. Matt's got this energy. I'm
gonna have a T-shirt with his face on.
He's got so much energy.
But I'm saying it's respect. You're one of the most As a person just meeting you, what I met you 3 hours ago, right? I gotta love you.
Well, but think about this. Think about it this way.
I would literally headbutt somebody for you.
Think about it this way. You got guys that will
Can you
not.
have a beer?
You want a beer?
Yeah.
All right, so think about it this way. You got guys that are going to knock on your door and ask you to vote for them. All right. and one of the questions,
Whatever you get me, chandelier, it's all good.
One of the questions that I always ask people that ask me for their vote is, okay, what do you want to do for your district or your community or your city? Because in the end of the day, the voters elected me because they trusted me. They said he's not going to screw up and mess up the Golden Goose, which was downtown, the waterfront, the historic district, all the cool spots that people relate to in Ocean Springs was in my district. Every one of them. Yeah. Okay. If you gave me a list of 10 things right now that said this is what I think about Ocean Springs, I would bet you $100 bill to $1 that 8 out of the 10 are going to be in the area that I represented for 24 years. So I took that seriously. I never wanted to leave knowing that I had a bad development, a bad project, a bad decision about an ordinance that would adversely affect the part of town that I represented. Okay, that was that simple.
I mean, so you really and we're not like, and most people listen. Like I told you about this. Like most people listen, like you got to find us and listen and pick up our show.
I will. Matter of fact, now I'm going to have to figure out how to find you, man.
Because we named it after our moms. Called Kathy and Susie's Kids. Like the beer coasters you've seen right here.
Yeah.
Real quick, the beer coaster.
Yeah.
I made that.
Okay.
This is my mom, and that's my buddy Matt. That's his mom. Right. So we named the show Kathy and Susie's Kids, and you can go to bars. We just give them out because I know it helps people save money in bars. Yeah. So we advertise through bar coasters. So it cuts.
That's totally cool, man. You know what? The crazy thing that I've realized over the last few years is how technology has changed the way that people communicate and advertise things. Yeah. And before, I can't tell you, and I hate to say this, live, but I can't tell you the last time I ever bought an ad in a newspaper. I don't do that anymore. I advertise differently.
Well, you run an empire, bro.
Well, but I have to reach. That's people.
An empire.
I have to reach people to tell them about the events that we do at the Coliseum differently than I did 2 years ago. Yeah. Way different than I did 32 years ago. Way different. True story, man. Because I got to get home. But and Mike, I want to once again tell you how proud I am to know you. How proud I am of the job that you did to build my home, and how proud I am of what I thought was going to be one of the nicest and highest use for a project in a very sacred area of Ocean Springs, and I hope that you're successful. I really do. But I had an old promoter that did Garth Brooks, George Strait, the Statler Brothers for years at the Coliseum. And I did all those acts with this one promoter. And before I met him, he promoted Lawrence Welk. Now, for some of y'all have no idea who Lawrence Welk was.
I have no idea.
All right, Lawrence Welk was a orchestra leader that performed on Saturday night on one of the 2 or 3 networks that was available when that was all that was available, okay, on TV. Yeah. Lawrence Welk Show. Google it, Lawrence Welk, okay, an orchestra. And I asked him, I said, how did you promote Lawrence Welk? He said, I would buy newspaper ads in the obituary column. I said, why would you buy ads in the obituary column? He said, because the people that liked Lawrence Welk were all older people, and they read the obituary column to see if their friends had died. I never forgot that.
Mastermind marketing, bro.
I never forgot that, man.
Hey, you know what he told me earlier? This is hilarious. Earlier when he was running for alderman, should I say this secret or not? Man?
Go ahead, man. Tell him.
So he said his best place to campaign was what's the old folks home in Ocean Springs? What's it called, Matt?
The Villa Maria.
The Villa Maria.
Matt's girlfriend runs Villa.
Dude,
really?
Yeah, my co-host Matthew, his girl Jean.
Well, let me say, there's 200 residents who live there.
200. He said he started out every campaign 200 to 0.
200. No, I didn't get them all, man. Nobody's 100%.
198.
Nobody's 100%er. But they all were elderly people, and I always found that elderly people voted because they cared. They cared about.
They do care.
They care about care about their community, and so I would always go and visit them, not just at election time. I'd visit them 3 or 4 times a year. We go there for Mardi Gras. We go there for Christmas. We go there for Thanksgiving. We go there for 4th of July. Man, I do a watermelon and vegetable party where I'd get a bag of tomatoes and corn and peaches and give every resident a bag of potatoes, corn, and peaches. And we'd cut up watermelon, eat watermelon, and have somebody playing the piano, singing, and they'd have a good time. But these people had a lot more experience than I did. They had stories. They had experiences that I could understand about what they wanted to see out of their city. And I represented those people for years. They voted in their basement of their retirement home. You don't think I didn't pay attention to those folks?
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I'll tell you right now, we're gonna end on this note. But honestly, I want you to comment below, like, for sure, like, and let us know, like, you know, on the development or being better in the community. And shout out to you for pulling that slot. You've been playing lottery by yourself.
I mean, you know what?
Not by myself.
Well, not by yourself with a group of people, but I mean, like, you've been like, I would say you're taking a risk. Like, you want to see a better community, you gain from it. You started developing downtown Ocean Springs for what it is today.
Well, I just protected it. I protected it, man.
No, but it didn't. I grew up there. I'm sorry, guys. There was nothing there.
Well, but I want you to understand this, though. The difference between an elected official that gets to rule on the issues that Mike is having to deal with is the fact that he has no skin in the game. This guy has skin in the game, his own skin, okay, his own sweat, his own equity, and he's being, I think, in my opinion, wrongfully judged and wrongfully stopped from doing a quality project with his own money. It's not a nickel out of an elected official's pocket, not a nickel. The only job the elected official really has is to make sure that the project is done right. That's it.
Yeah, and the other thing I got to say is, you know, that a lot of that, everything you said right there, Matt, is true. But again, I want to emphasize that I'm a very small part of this development. My team is huge.
Oh, I didn't mean to say it like that, but I mean,
no. I get what you're saying.
An individual company,
but I got, and the bottom line is we got an investor, you know, a guy, Roy Deathridge, who's helped us out tremendously. We've got me, Josh, Matt, my wife, Jennifer Gill, Lee Brumfield. Obviously, Lee Brumfield's got the. He's really getting the.
Lee is the most honest
I
developer.
want to meet Lee. Lee, let's have dinner.
Lee likes to eat dinner, man. He'll take you up on it.
Lee, take me to dinner.
Lee, but listen, though, Lee is the most honest developer, honest to goodness, honest developer I have ever met in my entire 24 years in public office.
Man, you're like a glow. You're like right now. There's glow. Like there's like a golden glow off of you. Because,
no, man.
No, as like and Butler said, like, you know, having you on, like he wanted, like, because he wanted, like, the true story about what he does. And I'll tell you right now, guys, I'm all about Butler Homes. I'm till the end. I'm all about what my buddy dreamed for.
No, I appreciate that, man. But there is a lot more to this story that we didn't even get to tonight. We literally covered we covered phase one.
This is part one. We'll come to part two.
I'm telling you, there's a part 2, a 3, and a 4, and it gets super, super disappointing.
Well, then you better stay tuned because you.
Yeah, but you know what? Though, I'm only going to appear in part 1, man. I've given you the whole story that I know.
Let's finish this off with a cheers, boys.
All right, guys.
All right, man.
Hey, listen, cheers. Everybody stay safe. Let's get through this pandemic. There are better times ahead. Trust me when I tell you that, man.
Yeah.
Better times.
And make sure you go to the Coliseum, see the new development. This guy right here.
The locker room.
The locker room.
Right.
And Butler Homes and all the development. But guys, check it out and love you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jordan.
I got the yellow ribbon. So, you know, it's okay. You know.
How many times did you sit back just relaxing? Understand movements coming in, yeah, we got the packs in. I don't really wanna see no more traffic. Last pack just came in, let's get it out quick.